Am I the asshole for telling an employee she can choose between demotion or termination? I own a vape shop. We're a small business, only 12 employees. One of my employees, Peggy, was supposed to open yesterday. Peggy has recently been promoted to manager, after 2 solid years of good work as a cashier. I really thought she could handle the responsibility. So, I wake up, 3 hours after the place should be open, and I have 22 notifications on the store Facebook page. Customers have been trying to come shop, but the store is closed. Employees are showing up to work, but they're locked out. I call Peggy, and get no response. I text her, same thing. So I go in and open the store. An hour before her shift was supposed to be over, she calls me back. I ask her if she's okay, and she says she needed to take a mental health day and do some self-care. I'm still pretty pissed at this point, but I'm trying to be understanding, as I know how important mental health can be. So I ask her why she didn't call me as soon as she knew she needed the day off. Her response: I didn't have enough spoons in my drawer for that. Frankly, I don't even know what that means. But it seems to me like she's saying she cannot be trusted to handle the responsibility of opening the store in the AM. So I told her that she had 2 choices. 1. Go back to her old position, with her old pay. 2. I fire her completely. She's calling me all sorts of this now, and says I'm discriminating against her due to her poor mental health and her gender. None of this would have been a problem if she simply took 2 minutes to call out. I would have got up and opened the store on time. But this no-call/no-show shit is not the way to run a successful business. I think I might be the here, because I am taking away her promotion over something she really had no control over. But at the same time, she really could have called me. So, Reddit, I leave it to you, am I the asshole? Edit, I came back from making a sandwich and had 41 messages. I can't say I'm going to respond to every one of y'all individually, but I am reading all of the comments. Anyone who asks a question I haven't already answered will get a response. Not the asshole. You aren't taking it away because of her gender or poor mental health. You are reacting to her not following the sickness policy of contacting you before her shift, tbh not showing up or contacting anyone. I wouldn't have been giving her the choice, however check that legally you are okay with that. You gave her an opportunity based on her hard work and prior success. You had no way to know she would display this level of crappy commitment. Not the asshole at all. This behavior costs a business more than just a few hours trade. She probably couldn't cope with the extra pressure of the managerial position. Either that or something is going on in her out-of-work life. In either case, if she was struggling, she should have said something before it got this bag. Regardless, to fail to call out to allow you to organize to get the business open is totally unacceptable. Not the asshole. Giving her a second chance back in her old position is fine for now, but don't be surprised if she continues with her attitude and ends up having to be terminated. Or, and sorry to be a negative Noah and suspicious Samuel, she was lying, overselling about her mental health stuff and was just hungover, lazy, forgot, whatever. No reason to think that if she hasn't acted like that in the past. Why not? It's a reasonable explanation given what we've been told. If you never suspect someone of doing something until they've demonstrated to you that they'll do it, then you'll always be surprised. But going around assuming maliciousness where other explanations make sense doesn't seem like a winning strategy either. What's the quote? Never ascribe to malice that which can be explained by laziness and stupidity. Hanlon's razor. When it meets Occam's razor, things get finger pointy. Because OP gave her the position based on her previous work. That sort of behavior would have shown up long before a promotion was given if the employee was that way inclined. Equally possible, but she had been a model employee prior to this, so who knows? I could see this being her lying if it wasn't for her phrasing it as out of spoons. That's a pretty specific phrase used by therapists that I don't know that someone who's neurotypical would know. Obviously, I'm sure some people know about spoon theory without having mental health issues, but I can't see it being a lot of people, ETA. I'm not saying that she was right to not call/text in about her situation. She should have let the owner know instead of just abandoning ship and expecting everything to be okay. Also, my hometown didn't really have mental health resources, so everyone I've talked with about spoon theory hadn't heard of it, even those with chronic illnesses. I'm glad it's so well known though. It's all over social media. Maybe it was fairly exclusive to mental health professionals a few years ago, but it's pop culture now. It actually stated as a chronic illness thing. Someone with chronic Lyme's disease created it to explain fatigue to their able-bodied friend. Spoon theory wasn't about mental health. It was created by a lady with lupus to explain how someone with an invisible illness has to manage their energy to function. It's very adaptable, though, and have a bunch of people words to explain something they're struggling with. Link to Spoon Theory, https://butao.luxic.com/articles/written by Christine/the Spoon Theory/. Are you aware of the Peter Principle? Look it up. People get promoted to their lowest level of incompetence, meaning they will be promoted as long as they're good but eventually end up out their depth and sucking. It's possible to mitigate it though. Promoting people because they're good at the current job is not how you do it. Instead, you should interview/promote based on them proving they have the aptitude/ability to do the new job. Edit, name of the thing I got wrong. Part of the problem is that places will promote people into managerial positions, but then not give them any training on how to effectively manage themselves/clients/team members at a manager's level. So you end up with someone muddling their way through it until someone eventually gives them that training months later, only they've potentially ruined their team's morale or trust by that point by being a bit shit. I'm watching this exact scenario play out at my partner's work at the moment, and it's only now, a few months and many staff later, that this manager is starting to chill out enough to actually be any good at her job. As a spoonie myself, someone who has a limited capacity to perform certain daily actions. I have mental health issues, work comes first. If she really didn't have enough spoons, units of energy. An analogy used to explain why some days I cannot do some things, to go to work, she needed to call in. She has now screwed you over and ruined her chance at a good job. I would fire her. No, she doesn't have control over her mental health, but she does have a certain control over how she deals with it. Her problems cannot be allowed to kill your business at it. Thank you to whoever gave me an award. I gotta ask, 'cause I've never heard about this spoon stuff, is this what and how you share with your boss? Look up the spoon theory. And no, as someone with chronic pain and other things, I've never been absent from work and then told my boss to get over it because I didn't have enough spoons. I called in like a good employee should. OP, not the asshole. Demote her due to failing to adhere to company policy, as long as you have a call-out policy. Make sure that she has a copy of the handbook, and put everything in her file regarding what happened in case she tries to sue you for discrimination. This is what I am concerned about for OP. It's only a small shop with 12 employees. Does he even have a written and documented employee handbook at all? OP needs to talk to an employment lawyer about this, not Reddit. He should not be making employee termination decisions based on the results of a Reddit thread. Definitely agree with the document all the things for sure. OP- assuming it's the US- is not obligated to follow the AITA, as they only have 12 employees. Cruel as it is, OP could call the girl up and say, I don't want a Looney Tune working for me, you're fired, Daffy, and that's that. The AITA does not protect you if you work for a small business with only a handful of employees. Beyond that, even if OP had 50 plus employees, the AITA requires reasonable accommodations. Opening the store, or giving sufficient notice for a sick day, is literally her job. If she can't perform her job, it's not a reasonable accommodation. Don't you also have to inform your employer of accommodations you need? You absolutely do. The employer can't be expected to magically know a person's limits or needs. Not to mention that I can't be expected to show up to work or be required to say so when I won't be there is not at all an accommodation an employee can ever expect. Right. It's significant other naval accommodations. No call/no show is not reasonable. Yep. You can just expect them to magically show up under the law, you gotta be a gasp adult and communicate. AITA also requires you to fill out medical forms that notify your employer of your condition. Then reasonable accommodations are made in writing. If she has not filled out the medical paperwork informing him of her condition and waited until after the fact to say anything, AITA won't protect her. After my stage 4 cancer diagnosis, I had to teach virtually despite other teachers being in the building because the school system was very slow on processing my AITA paperwork but didn't want the liability of having me on campus without accommodations. He only has 12 employees. Most employment laws won't apply to OP. He should be fine firing her. When I developed stage 4 cancer, I explained spoon theory to my boss. Chemo doesn't leave a lot of spoons. I am a teacher, so I told my boss the kids come first. The paperwork depends on how much it impacts the kids, so the order will be grading and lesson plans, done in 2-week increments to follow my chemo schedule, because the further I was from chemo the more spoons I had. Admin paperwork last and absolutely nothing given without 2 weeks notice. I had a great year with my kids, and my boss thinks I am a superhero to come in and teach while wearing a chemo pump. The only days I took off were infusion days. I use spoon theory to manage my energy and allot them. Granted, my husband did everything at home so that I could give everything I had at work. Luckily, he was unemployed at the time, so he could focus on taking care of the home things. It's an analogy, I think. You start out with so many spoons each day, and each and every activity, getting out of bed, getting dressed, showering, brushing teeth, every tiny little thing, requires you to spend some of your spoons. Eventually, you're just out and you have no more to give that day. Sometimes you have to borrow spoons from tomorrow. You could think of it like money too. Each day you wake up with $100 and everything you do costs money. Some days you're feeling good and showering is only $1. Other days, you're too exhausted and now showering is $20 or even $50. Have bad ADHD with accompanying anxiety. Spoon theory, or any daily exhaustible resource, makes sense to me. I can only try to push my limited executive functioning capacity so far. That's why no one at work has any idea I have ADHD, but my house is a mess and I can't keep appointments because by the time I get home I just can't do it anymore, using up my spoons before the day is done. Also, if I have a big work event or a busy day ahead, I reserve spoons/mental energy and do pretty much nothing until that thing has been accomplished. That second part is something I always do but never thought about in terms of reserving before, even though that's definitely what I'm doing, but rather that I was stalling because of the anticipation of the event. I love this analogy. Not calling my boss to say I'm not opening the store that day is not a spoon in the drawer. If you want to save the going to work spoon, for that day, you call your damn boss. This person is using what I assume to be a valid theory as an excuse. It's probably not the first time either, or she just heard it recently in therapy and figured she'd try it out, expecting it to be carte blanche. And that's really frustrating to people that legitimately use it appropriately to help describe their dysfunction or limited capacity. It creates stigma. This employee was thoughtless. I feel ya. My executive functioning is in the toilet by noon most days. And my day is only just beginning at noon. The reserving mental energy for the upcoming appointment/meeting/ etc. Thank you for putting it into words. Before my diagnosis and subsequent meds, if I had an appointment in the middle of the day, I couldn't do anything else but that. Now newly medicated, I'm finding it easier to do other things now. Not quite there yet, and still stall out, but I'm a hell of a lot easier on myself because of it. Anyway, thanks. Those words put it perfectly. Blue heart. But is this what would be shared with a boss like this lady did? Because before this discussion, if somebody was sharing info about spoons, I would be sending a cop for a wellness check. Some people tend to forget that everyone knows what they're talking about all the time. No weirder than making a movie reference no one else gets. It was conceived by the disabled community as an analogy to abled folk, especially invisible disabilities. But you look fine is a thing we hear a lot, and someone came up with this analogy to explain why even though we look fine, we may not be. Why we have good days, where we seem normal, and bad, where we're limited. I wouldn't use this analogy to someone who's never heard of it before lol, because there's no context really for someone to infer what it means. But once it is explained, it's good shorthand. This lady should have saved a spoon to call in, SMH. Google spoon theory. The way I usually describe it is like this. I have a max of, say, 100 spoons. Absolutely everything costs spoons, and I do mean every single things. If you have pain, even breathing can cost spoons. Some things replenishes them. If I have had a really bad day, the next day I have less spoons, or everything costs more spoons. If I have a big event, my spoon supply will dwindle leading up to event, due to my anxiety kicking in. The day of the event I can spend several days or even weeks worth of spoons and can be spoon poor for a long time afterward. I have autism and anxiety, so things that stress me out or if I have to socialize in certain ways costs more spoons. Also, certain things that seem inconsequential to other people can cost me huge amounts of spoons. Some things will give me back spoons, however. Spending time with my bullet journal, my plants, being alone, predictability, and just relaxing at home by myself can give me back spoons. The one thing I could never do was flake out of work. Just knowing the trouble I would be causing would take all my spoons. It also screws you over later, due to a bad relationship with your coworkers and boss, and maybe even losing your job. If you have to take a day to yourself, you need to call in and take a sick day. Good description. I have depression, but I find that usually my spoons go to work first, and if I drop anything because I don't have energy, it's in my home or personal life. Because if I don't have a job, I don't have my home or personal life. It's an analogy for saying you don't have the energy to do something, used by the chronically ill. I can't stand it and would rather say my battery is defective, or I'm having issues with fatigue today, or practically anything else that is easy for people to grasp and doesn't involve a lengthy explanation about a specific situation the author found herself in. People get it if you just say you have a chronic illness and a bad night/tiring day/stressful situation has drained your dodgy battery, instead of going into this explanation of a woman in a cafe with her friend, stealing all the spoons off the surrounding tables. I guess for some people it helps because it creates a conversation, but I know others who despise it. Don't know if links are allowed here, but just Google spoon theory and you'll find it. It's not specific to work, but life in general for those with chronic health problems, physical or mental. I'm disabled with a chronic pain condition, and spoon theory is how you describe your ability on how to get through the day. You start each day with 12 spoons, and how you use those spoons depends on how easy or difficult it is to do everyday tasks. As in, if I'm having a major pain flare, just getting out of bed costs me a spoon, making and eating breakfast cost me a spoon, having a shower another spoon. On a really bad day I've used all 12 spoons doing tasks most people take for granted by 10 a.m. On bad days I now figure out what tasks I desperately need to do and conserve my spoons for those. This article explains it more clearly. https://www.webmd.com/multiple-sclerosis/features/spoon theory. Not the asshole OP using a lack of spoons excuse to not let you know she was too ill to come to work is not acceptable. FFS Reddit. Now I have to explain to my boss why I googled poon theory at work. Agreed. I've got several fairly debilitating conditions and often run out of spoons. Or in my terms, I ran out of spell slots because that makes more sense to me than an arbitrary utensil, but you get the idea. I've never done something like this. I've actually always just gone into work spoonless or not, when I was the manager and was the only person who could open the store. But on days that I couldn't do it and there were other available people, I always managed to contact someone and get it figured out. I don't think being a spoonie is a good excuse to shirk an important work responsibility with absolutely zero communication. And if you really cannot handle that responsibility, then unfortunately you are unqualified for that job. It's not ableist that you're limited in what you can do for an occupation. If I had narcolepsy and couldn't drive, I wouldn't expect to get hired for pizza delivery. That's not ableism. The job needs to get done and she can't do it. End of. Not the asshole. As a fellow spoonie, I would say that work doesn't always come first for me, but communication does. The only way to hold down any kind of job is to communicate clearly and in a timely way about your needs. If she has days when she isn't able to make a phone call, then she shouldn't be in a position of responsibility like that. I agree. I think the thing I'm getting hung up on here is that she didn't call. Hi. I have shit mental health plus physical chronic illness. I show up to work or I call in with adequate time to be replaced. I understand that it's a lot of spoons, they represent your energy or capacity level, to call you and bow out at the last minute, but I also understand it's a lot more spoons to get in trouble after the fact and be fired. And that it's not fair to you, the other employees or the customers. I can't help my health, but I'm still responsible for my actions. To be honest, it sounds like part of why Peggy was a great cashier was because she could handle that level of responsibility and enjoys people, but that she can't, mental health-wise, handle the added stress of being a manager. And it's possible Peggy didn't know that was true when she took on the role, but now you both know. I'd tell her she's being given this offer not because of her gender, she got that promotion with that gender in the first place, or her mental health, but because of her lack of responsible actions that left your customers and employees locked out. And that you were willing to accommodate the consequences, as neither of you knew management would be bad for her mental health, but you won't put up with her blaming you instead of taking responsibility for the consequences of her choices. But honestly, I think if she's calling you a bigot, you have no choice but to let her go. I don't see her going back to being a great cashier for you. Not the asshole. Exactly. My mental health is so bad, I am quitting my job. I cannot perform on the level required, or any for that matter. Blaming the manager is a shitty person thing. Calling it bigotry is a straight up insult to people who try to take responsibility for their mental illness and the strain it might put on others. As a recommendation, A promotion should not be the first time an employee have those responsibilities, even partially. New responsibilities are gained in a position then rewarded with a promotion. And this in conversation with the employee that want that promotion and have to learn to develop to the new future role. This is how my current employer does it, and me and my coworkers like it. It is clear, and can be adjusted to your plans. Also fairer for everyone, they are able to show their capacity versus their ambitions and the needs of the company. Edit. Word. My problem with this is that employers take advantage of that arrangement. Stringing someone along at their current position's salary while they have the next position's responsibilities for months or even a year is a great way for the company to get free, higher-level labor while dangling the promotion carrot in front of you. My experience of employers who do that is that they never quite get around to promoting someone. Either the employee gets fed up and leaves, or they are told you agreed to take on the extra duties at that pay when they ask about the promotion. And it is exactly this how my company has screwed me for the last few years of giving me 4x the work I used to do and no extra pay. The guy runs a vape shop with 12 employees. It's not like he's got 6 different levels of supervisory roles to cycle through, gradually increasing the levels of responsibility. It's probably cashier, manager, owner. Not the asshole. It's not gender or mental health, it's an issue to not come to your shift and not say anything. I could understand if the shop could open without her, e.g. someone else on that day had keys, still not okay, but the impact would be less. But that isn't the case. She cost you loads of sales, and honestly I would be concerned for someone's safety if it was unlike them to bail on a shift and not tell anyone. Like similar thing happened to a famous case in Aus. A woman who would call if she thought she was going to be late missed her shift, and people were worried when she didn't call. Turns out she was murdered. And this not enough spoons BS. Sorry, but as an employee you have a responsibility to let your employer know you aren't going to be in, so you aren't short-staffed or on you case. Actually open your fucking store on time. Edit. The spoons thing I didn't really understand, and now I do. I mean, for me it would be more stressful to not call in, and it takes no effort to do this. I am not a lawyer, but I am a former HR professional. The AITA does not require you to accept poor behavior due to a disability. You are required to reasonably accommodate the condition, but you aren't required to accept policy violations if you have an absence reporting process. This advice is for the US. If you are in the US, you should check to ensure your state or city does not provide further protections. Not the asshole. The problem is that she will never be as good as she was because she will now be blaming you for her behavior. You should just fire her. Sorry for your loss of a good worker. Not to sound too negative, but how confident are you in her returning to her old position without issues? It already sounds like she's giving you a bunch of trouble for even bringing it up. I'd give it's a good idea to keep her on after she showed herself to be someone who pulls the ism accusations where they are unwarranted. Sounds like a liability than an asset. There was a theory that someone will always get promoted until they're incompetent at their job. I think that's called the Peter Principle. That's also the reason I never pushed for a promotion. It's not a lack of ambition, I just know I wouldn't be a very effective team leader. I have poor mental health, and I have never failed to pick up the phone and call out. Not the asshole. If her mental health prevents her from doing that, she isn't fit for the position. That's not the asshole. If her mental health prevents her from doing that, she isn't fit for the position. That's not discrimination. It would be like saying someone with a bad back can't work in a warehouse. Info: has she ever asked for days off for mental health before? She's called out 6 times in 2 years, some or all of those may have been for mental health. I don't pry. But on those occasions, when she needed days off, she alerted you ahead of time, correct? If so, I have to wonder if on this occasion she reasoned that she didn't have to because, hey, she's in charge. The boss doesn't have to call in. Whatever the reason, she's demonstrated the ability to alert you in a manner reasonable for any employee. On the first occasion when she was in charge, she did not do so. You're not the asshole. You're an owner trying to do right by your customers and your employees. It's not fair to others to put someone in charge who doesn't perform the responsibilities given to them. Especially when it directly impacts everyone else's job. That was my exact thinking. Especially as she doesn't seem particularly remorseful about what she's done. If you liked the video, hit that subscribe button for more content. I post every day, and I'll see you next time with more stories.